Hit me!
Episode 319.
You've got to throw some cold water on this situation. Start talking about nerd stuff.
You know, nerd culture is mainstream now, so when you use the word nerd derogatorily, it means you're the one that's out of the zeitgeist.
System activate.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker.
It's a tech podcast.
But we are a ton cooler than your typical geek.
You guys rock.
And now, here's Will and Trent.
Already off to a grand start. I forgot I have an alternate button to hit when it's just me. Because there is no Trent in this one, and it's not Trent's fault, nor is it mine. Just is what it is. Seems to be my motto as of lately. Welcome, another edition of NetHeads. My name is Will. As I said, no Trent. If you want to take part in the program, you can one of many ways. Although this one is definitely after the fact, because unlike typical scenarios, we are actually, even though this is streaming for our Patreon supporters, that's the only place it's going out right now. So we have a lot of wiggle room here to really screw things up, but then still be able to recover. Like, as a matter of fact, I could just restart this whole thing right now and take out everything after I said 319 and go from there. Like this. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of NetHeads. My name is Will. If you want to take part in the program, you can one of many ways. One of them is Twitter, hashtag NetHeads on Twitter if you want to follow along, especially after the fact, because this one is just going out to our Patreon subscribers at the moment. So thank you very much to our supporters. If you want to find out more about that, netheadsonair.com for any link that matters when it comes to this show. Speaking of things that matter, folks, obviously we all walk our own unique paths in life. We all do the things that we do. And interestingly enough, sometimes we get to intersect paths with other people. And as many of you may know, I'd hope by now, I have the benefit of being able to work with somebody that I formerly admired. And that gentleman's name is Kevin Smith. And through him, I have been able to meet all kinds of important people. And as such, one of them, I see interactions happen online, right? And then certain things pique your interest. Like, oh, wait, who is this? Where's this coming from? What's the story here? And I realize that if I've got that question, there are many other people that may as well. So out of the kindness of his own heart, thankfully today, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion on our tech podcast with none other than Mr. Brian Stoner, who you may have seen mentioned in Kevin's tweets or some of his live streams, and most definitely, in my experience anyway, from the time spent in New Orleans. Welcome to the microphone, Mr. Brian Stoner. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, man. So for those of you that may not know, let me just tell you how I was introduced to Brian and let you know how things kind of flowed from there. I just one day, I saw Kevin Smith tweeting at Stoner. Basically, that's what I took out of it. It wasn't even Brian. It was just Stoner. Stoner, how's the whole Stoner family? And I was like, well, that's what's going on here. And wow, this guy is pretty brazen about his habits out in the open, which turns out not the case at all. Because let's be very clear. I introduced you as Brian Stoner. That is your correct surname.
Yep.
So he is truly a stoner like no other. Or, well, I'm sure there are many others, but just not what you would typically have assigned. Although I'm sure you have probably dealt with your handful of pot jokes in your lifetime.
Yes, there's been a few. I was just happy when we transitioned from stoner rhymes with boner to kids got old enough to know what drugs were. That was a good time in my life.
So basically things were a little challenging, then you got a little bit older, and then it's just like, oh, you're the life of the party possibly, or people are really bummed when you're not carrying, is my guess.
Right.
How does it feel to be married to just kind of such a ubiquitous title without actually being a practitioner?
It's interesting. I mean, there was people assume instantly, which is hilarious to me because if your last name's Smith, I don't expect you to be able to make me a sword, just because you're.
What a world we would live in, though, if that were the case, though, right?
Gosh, it would be so great. It would be so great. That's actually when I met my wife. Her maiden name is Bolzomi, and I thought it was Blow Me, and that whole concept's why I sought her out in the first place. But
oh my God, have you been working on your tight five for the Chucklehead? Very good. You already got me engaged. Look at you, man. But getting kind of back on the point. Actually, first of all, let's dial things back a little bit. I'm going to do something weird, Brian.
Okay.
And you're going to see it. Many of you may know, hopefully you've figured out, again, by now, that I live in the United States of America. And we are currently experiencing a global pandemic. Many of us are affected by that, including Brian, who, correct me if I'm wrong, you're up in the Washington area, which was previously considered one of the hot spots for this disease, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I'm up here in Tacoma, Washington, and it has been a cluster. But, we're just all trying to survive. That's all we can do. Just shelter kind of in place and mask up and all the other buzzwords we're being told to use and support, which I do. But
it's funny you mentioned that. So earlier I came to an epiphany, if you will. And excuse me for a moment. I'm going to do something I'm very uncomfortable with, which is not hear the show while it's going on. But I came to a realization, which is that I already was doing something. Daily I go out on a morning walk, right? And when I do that, although I'm not required to, I always wear a mask because here in California, anyway, you've got up to, I think, 6 feet of distance, anytime you're around somebody. So if you're going to be within that proximity, if you're outdoors doing exercise or what have you, they say you have to have a mask in the event that would happen. Mm-hmm. Now, I go out and I wear a mask all the time, and I do that not because I'm concerned about getting close to people. I'm doing it both for the practicality of it to make sure that should I somehow, even though I do my best to not go out and I do my best to keep my environment sterile, if you will, I always go out wearing a mask to both make sure I'm protecting other people, but also kind of as a statement and a reminder and as a way to normalize, if you will, the appearance of masks in public, of people wearing masks. I think that until we get beyond this disease, it's going to be our new normal. It's going to be a good practicing normal. I don't understand how on earth masks became politicized. And believe me when I say from the bottom of my heart, when it comes to masks, I don't care about your political opinion. I don't. I'm glad you got one. Everyone has the right to have one. But when it comes down to the science, if every one of us were to always wear a mask in public and be diligent about washing our hands and all of these things, we would greatly reduce the transmission of this disease until the time, hopefully, we have a vaccine. If we do not have a vaccine, this is going to be our new normal until we eradicate its existence because we're no longer propagating it, okay? Mm-hmm. And so in making that decision, I realized that in order to normalize the appearance of masks, I need to take it a step further. I have very little sway, very low social impact, but everywhere that I do, I'm at least speaking to a certain number of people, and those people may hear me and they may continue the message. And honestly, even though it is not comfortable, even though it's not the norm, and definitely here in a room all by myself, it's not needed. From now on, if you see me on social media in the capacity where I am supposedly entertaining, that is subjective and always up to the end user whether I'm truly entertaining or not. And God knows I try too hard. Anyway, if in the capacity that you see me in doing this, if I'm sitting down and I'm streaming and I'm blah, 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 maybe not necessarily in a photo with my family because I'm still capturing memories. But from now on, even when I'm sitting here doing this podcast, because I can be seen, because you can make out who I am, and you can see my face. And mind you, I'm not hiding, even though it sounds that way. I'm doing this just for it to become the new normal. So you may hear a different sound of the podcast for a little while because I'm going to be talking through a mask if I'm running video. If I'm doing something on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter, on TikTok, I'm going to be... This is how you're going to see me until we're through this. And if everybody does this and we make it the normal, okay, because there is no weirdness about it. I've gone on my morning walks, as I said, wearing a mask. I'm able to breathe just fine. I think right now the only reason why I'm having any type of breathing is because I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone, and I'm definitely making it weird. So I apologize for making you the guinea pig for this new lifestyle, if you will. But, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I possibly can. And this is the only thing I can think of to where I can have any type of impact. Even, admittedly, because of my choice of style of mask, at least I'm making it interesting as well, because now I've got the entire galaxy on my face, for those of you that may look on this later, if you're listening to the podcast. It's something we got to do. I can't think, is there anything else you can think of that maybe I'm overlooking so I could take this thing off? Nothing, right?
Not really. I mean, we just have to, I think the problem is a lot of us are, unfortunately, we have that sheeple kind of mentality. And if you get one loud voice saying, masks aren't real, or it's not necessary, or your mask is a tinfoil hat, then someone else goes, oh, wait, maybe that's the thing. So we just have to outnumber them, and obviously we know wearing masks is the right thing to do. So we just do it. And like you said, the more you see it, the more it becomes, it takes the power away from it. If that's what everyone else is doing, the world's full of, a fair amount of followers. So everyone will hopefully follow suit.
Yeah. Even if it only spreads to a few people, I think I would just be more comfortable doing this. Because as I said, there's very little that I could do. I was not one of the people that went out, even though I fully supported and understood, I did not go out and take part in any Black Lives Matter protests. I wasn't willing to do that because although I am not happy with the state of things in our country and I do wish to show my support, I'm going to be doing it from inside this bubble. And there's a lot of reasonable expectations. Right now, today, this day, which is, I think, day 116, possibly. I can tell you in just one second here. Hold on. It is day 119 that we have essentially been kind of sheltering in place here.
Right.
In my house. We did venture out to one family gathering. It was extremely tense, and now we wouldn't even be able to do it the way we're today because at 119 days in, our state, California, is basically saying we got to roll some stuff back because you guys aren't playing nice. You're not doing what you need to do. And masks now are a thing. A lot of the schools are going to online, et cetera, et cetera. So from here within my bubble, this is what I can do. And, really, folks, it's kind of like, I'm already hearing enough bad stuff about this disease and what it can do and how we can't even predict the long-term effects. The longest, we've got this foolish discussion right now on politicization of getting kids back in school while we are having the largest counts of new cases in our country. This is essentially like saying, I really think we should all start wearing white when we're going into the paintball tournament. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you're not going to keep things nice and clean, so you got to do something to improve things, and that's one of them. We've got to up our game by realizing that we don't know what this disease can do. We've got a lot of L.A. County, San Diego County. They're now saying, no, our kids are going to be online until such time that things improve. And these are the calls that we need to make. We see a lot of people with a lot of dangerous rhetoric. I'm not going to repeat it here, but what I'll say is that just based on the information I have read, there are things about the long-term effects of this disease that we do not know, including, I think I recently saw an article where doctors were seeing a trend that young children that gets this disease, even though they're asymptomatic, they are seeing changes in the lungs and it can cause respiratory issues. A lot of people don't realize the kind of shit that polio and other more severe diseases would do to the human body. There is shit that would bend us out of the way and incapacitate us, and we don't know the long-term effects of this. So, the best way to stamp it out is to end it being around us. So if we end transmission and we get beyond the period where surfaces are affected, are able to contain it, we can minimize the impact. I fuck herd immunity if it's something that's going to permanently damage me.
Well, exactly. And what cracks me up is I have so many people that before all this started, I couldn't get them to leave the house. You make plans 9, 10 times. They always cancel. They always back out. And now they're like, I need to get a haircut. And I need to do this. And it's like, what? You never left the couch beforehand. Why the sense of urgency to put your life at risk? But
yeah, honestly speaking, dude, I have changed very little of my life. Okay.
Right? I'm right there with you. I mean, it just, and my wife's a paraeducator. She works in a public school, and she works with a variety of kids from kindergarten to 6th grade. And there's no way, they're talking up here in Washington, they're talking about, well, they're going to social distance. They're going to wear masks. Number one, the kids aren't keeping the mask on. Not at all. It's just not going to happen. Number two, they stuff the kids so, they put so many kids per classroom, it's literally impossible for social distancing to take place. So, I mean, I don't understand why they fight it so hard and then have to try to throw something together last minute. Just look at the facts and take this time to get together, a solid plan on how to move forward and let these kids be successful. I mean, I have a senior next year. My middle child will be a senior, and there's a good chance she's not going to get that senior experience. We were just talking about it today. And, that's unfortunate, and it really sucks. She's worked hard, and I want her to have that, but not at the risk of her life. It's so crazy to me, the things I hear and see daily. And the saddest part is none of it surprises me anymore. Not a bit of it.
Look, I understand some, let's get to the topic of schools real quick. Boy, I didn't really expect it. I'm like, hey man, let's get together. I want to interview you, get your story. Okay, we'll get to that. But let's talk about, you and I, we understand information technology. We understand infrastructure. So let's talk about the subject of schools for a moment. Okay, I get it. If a school is like, the problem with distance learning is even if we have our teachers reporting in class and doing a Zoom out in kind of a mixed thing, like maybe they've got some kids in class, some kids out of class. That's the environment I'm thinking. I get it. They're like, we don't have the budget to bring in additional communication lines and improve our networking infrastructure to be able to carry, 30 to 50 video calls at once, right?
Right.
I get it. So I understand the economic push there. I understand the economic concerns. Although, in a non-perfect world, if they can teach in a classroom and you had everyone at home that has internet access, you could, in theory, have the teachers utilizing their own broadband at home. Fuck, you expect them to buy the goddamn supplies they need every year. I'm sure they wouldn't mind using their internet as well. Oh, sorry, did my sass come out? I apologize.
I like Sassy Will.
Well, it's just look. I'm honestly speaking, I'm really charged up about a lot of this stuff. Amongst all the other, pardon my language, but all the other shit going on in my life, my deep concerns about the lack of checks and balances in our government and the direction that we seem to be going, where we're getting these asinine pushes to move forward when we're going to have longer term impacts. From this. Like I said early on, pushing for reopening too soon, it's a gamble. It was a gamble. I don't care what anybody says. It was a political gamble and it's not paying off. But for some reason, we're still trying to push a similar narrative in different areas like schools. So anyway, that drives me nuts. But, again, what can I do from my bubble? Although I did figure that out. I'll share that later if I feel like it. Anyway, so getting to schools, I get that part. Okay, but other than that, take the politicization. Don't politicize it. It's not a political issue. This is a health and safety issue, okay?
Right.
And two brilliant things that came along on this subject for me. The first was just my own realization, like, every single year when my kids were little, all right? One of them is little. She's going into first grade this year.
Mm-hmm.
They, every time when they were young and they would go to school, within the first 2 weeks, what happens, Brian?
Someone's sick.
Exactly. So we can't control the common cold, but we're going to
get lice. There's not been a school ever that's been able to successfully, keep from having a lice breakout. I don't understand.
And when it does, how long does it go on? Forever and a day.
Yes.
That's the second grade example. Somebody posted that and I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no, based on everything we're seeing and the new information that's evolving every day, regardless of your political feelings of the World Health Organization, I think they recently pointed out that when they're getting the data that they're able to process, they're showing that in a room with poor ventilation, you could get infected by somebody 30 feet away, okay? It's a no bueno situation. There is no indoor solution, I believe. Which means that everybody's at risk. Teachers are at risk of students. Students are at risk of teachers, faculty, administration, all of them. There's risk there that we can't predict, nor can we mitigate at this time. Right. Disney World is reopened, and they have a lot of interesting concepts, like any place where the queue wraps around. There's plastic dividers between people. There are the social distancing 6 feet dots, all this stuff. And it's a good preventative measure, but is it enough? Then you consider students in our district, they're in the room for like 90 minutes at a shot. And so you're breathing the air. It's a recipe for disaster. And in a time where cases are rising, I don't understand how this is even a topic for discussion. The science just isn't there. That's my opinion, though. What do you think about all this?
I agree completely. I mean, and speaking of the Disney World thing, I just saw this before I jumped online with you. So Disney World opened today. Hong Kong Disneyland has been open for a while. They just announced that they're closing again because of the spike. So, I don't understand. Obviously, it's not working. I love Disneyland more than anyone in the world. It's my favorite place, but this is just insane. There was a theme park in Asia that had a post, and it was asking people in the park not to scream on the roller coasters because it would spread the coronavirus. And it said, "We encourage you to scream in your heart."
Which is what all of us have been doing ever since we had to shelter in place.
That's our motto for 2020. Scream in your heart. It's perfect.
I was going to name this one Stoner Talk, but now I'm thinking Scream in Your Heart is maybe just as fitting, especially given this. So, anyway, now that I have vented that information out of my system, thank you for dealing with that. I appreciate it. I apologize for bringing you in for an interview and throwing you into the middle of what is essentially current American heated rhetoric. So I apologize.
No, that's fine. Luckily, you know me well enough to know where I would come across on most of these issues. So you didn't get hit sideways with like, you know, the lizard people want you to wear a mask. Well,
That would have been, I mean, in a way, it would have been so epic too.
the
Because
content
especially
would have
with
been
me here
great.
sitting here wearing the mask, it would have been awesome.
Hmm.
That would have been something I would have thoroughly enjoyed. Anyway, so on lighter topics,
Sure.
Brian. So as I said, I first took note of you. I guess is the best way to say, because a certain fellow that we both admire, Kevin Smith, I saw that he was tweeting at you. And I'm just like, well, wait, who is this guy? Because I think by the time I took notice, that's when, I saw like maybe this was like the third tweet. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? What's his story? So why don't you kind of act as a little bit of an enlightener for all of us and just say kind of, in a way, who you are, and then just kind of bring us up to speed on your story. How do you go from guy in Washington who starts Weight Watchers to being a guy that is getting, Hollywood writer, director, actor, multi-hyphenate Kevin Smith's regular attention, if you will? So how did get us there? How did this happen?
Well, I'll try my best. The truth is, it's still all insane to me, of course. But I've been a fan of Kevin's work forever. My mom worked. She was a school bus driver, so in the summer they were off. She worked at a video store, and I remember renting Mallrats and watching it and just falling in love. And then when I returned it, one of her coworkers was like, "Well, did you see Clerks?" And I'm like, I was like fifth grade, sixth grade. I'm like, no, I haven't seen Clerks. And he's like, oh, it's good, but it's black and white. And I was like, oh, like Wizard of Oz. And he was like, sweet Jesus, no, black and white, but it's nothing like Wizard of Oz. But so I've been a fan for a long time. And I never met Kev, never gotten to go to any of the live shows or anything. And he was doing the Funko grand opening here in Washington up in Everett. And at this point, I wasn't even on Twitter. So I was planning to go as a Funko fan. No idea Kev was going to be there. And they botched the opening kind of, and you couldn't get in basically. So I was like, well, we're not going to go. And then I was watching it live and Kev comes out and I'm like, oh, okay. So I told my wife, I was like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, just grab something. You've got a million Kevin Smith items. Just pick one. I'll drive. So it's about 2 hours from here to Everett. At this point, Kev was on stage when I left my house. So we, politely made our way safely up north. And I had Jen's phone in my one hand, because she had Twitter. I did not. Watching Kev's Twitter, trying to see what's going on. And then I had Facebook in my other hand on my phone, trying to see if I was going to get the chance. Sorry, I tell long stories. I'll try to make it shorter. So,
dude,
long story
look
short,
who you're talking to.
I know, but I don't want it to get overly winded. I don't want to bore.
No, you're good.
The
Keep going.
Here,
because suddenly I just thought it would be like, oh, well, I started Weight Watchers. Now I'm suddenly in a car with two phones tracking. Maybe sound a little stalkerish, but it's fine. Don't worry. Please proceed.
Hey, this was my one shot. So went up there, had a couple comics with me, and they had closed down the big street. And so we got to the tent and I was like, is Kevin Smith still here? And she was like, no, you missed him. And I was instantly devastated. And some rando was just like, no, you didn't. He's standing right over there. So I was like, oh. So we run over and he was doing an interview for local news. And I wasn't going to bother him, of course. I figured I'd kind of missed my shot. But I was within, social distancing, feet of him. So that was cool. And I was happy with just that. And then he motioned over to me and he asked me if I had like a pen. He must have seen the comics. And I told him sure. And we actually had a pretty good long talk. And he talked to the wife, talked to the kids. And that was our first meeting. And it was just crazy. That was pre-heart attack. That was pre-Weight Watchers. After that, I got on Twitter and would occasionally get the like, or something like that from Kev, which was insane to me at the time still. But then Kev had the heart attack and that's actually what caused us to form our little SMOD squad. We had a group chat just kind of to comfort each other, and try to figure out what was really going on and how bad was it and things like that. And that led, of course, to Kev doing the Weight Watchers thing, which at the time I was 404 pounds. My whole family's big. Everyone's insulin dependent diabetic but me. My dad, grandpa, grandma, all of them. So my whole thing was always I never wanted to be over 400 pounds. So when Kev made the announcement, I was like, ugh, I got to go get on the scale, which luckily I worked at the hospital because you need a special scale for someone of that size. So I got on the scale, and true enough, it said, 404 pounds. And I was like, well, I guess we're doing this thing together, Kev. And he pretty quickly caught on, and we kind of just became each other's cheerleaders and kept each other motivated. And I got to start seeing him more. And I don't know. I mean, there was a million people doing it. I must have had, I don't know, 50 or 60 people sign up from following me on the journey. And, Kev, I'm sure it was thousands. And that's kind of how that went. That was the kind of the start of all of it.
I totally get it, man. Not to make it all about me, but cool story. I get it, because when that happened, that was kind of in a way, it was a wake-up call for me, because there's only 7 months of difference between he and I,
Right.
which is weird to think about. It's like you idolize this guy, which I really do in many ways, still. And it's just like, but there's only 7 months difference between you two. Not saying I could have easily been him, but, I could have been something like him, I guess is the best way to put it. So, there's a lot of similarities there. And when that happened, first of all, there was just the shock of finding out. But then it was just the realization. It's like, you know what? Holy crap. It was at the point where he said, well, the kind of thing that he said very early on about going vegan too is just like, well, I was able to do this for X number of years of my life, and it got me here, so maybe it's time to try something new. And
Right.
that was the exact same thing for me. At the time that it happened, I had a 4-year-old. I also have a 17-year-old. I have a wife. I have an entire ecosystem that relies on me.
Yeah.
And was I doing that ecosystem justice? The answer, no. Because every day I was making choices that put it at risk. Because at the time, I would rather medicate the issue than I would actually addressing the issue.
Absolutely.
We won't get into how Big Pharma wants us to do exactly that.
Right.
But that was the thing. I just realized I've got to make some changes here, because if I don't, something like this could happen. And, those are the kind of things you need to recognize.
Yep.
My father, first of all, I had been told I have genetically bad cholesterol. And my father, near the end of his span, had to have them go in for each carotid artery like a roto-rooter and clear it out. And it's like, the writing's on the wall. You got some genetics that could be predisposed in a negative way.
Right.
You got to do something about it, which I did. The culmination of which, I think for me, which is where we got to meet, was when I got to go to New Orleans to play as an extra one day on Reboot, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And the people came out with an XL t-shirt. And mind you, like right now, I'm wearing one of my old 3XLs. That was the standard, and there were some comfortable 3XLs and some uncomfortable 3XLs.
Yes.
So to be handed an XL t-shirt, to be in a Kevin Smith movie, first of all, the latter part, wow, that's surreal. But the former part, it's like being handed an XL t-shirt, it's like, oh my gosh, what do you know? I actually set my mind to it, and I did something.
Yep.
And I'm sure you were the same way. So I know that a lot of the SMOD squad got together, and that's how I was introduced to you guys when we went to New Orleans. But how did that come together for you? How did your trip to New Orleans kick off? Like, at what point were you like, hey, you've been chosen, this is the day?
Yeah, I mean, that was just a crazy turn of events, because at the time I had a really bad job, and I got no paid vacation, got no paid time off. Period. I didn't make a lot. Like there was no chance of me building a costume and entering that way, um, which I saw a lot of people going through and getting accepted, and a lot of my friends, which was great, and I was super happy for them. And I had Jordan's email from a previous, interaction, because by this time, me and Kev have been, going back and forth on Twitter for, I don't know, a year maybe. Yeah, I guess about a year and change. And we'd met up at multiple shows and stuff like that. And so I shot Jordan an email and I was like, listen, if there's any way I can just like stand in the parking lot outside, I don't need anybody. I don't need anything from anybody. Just if I can get, the okay that it would be all right, I'll figure out the rest of it. And she was like, oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, Kevin would love to have you down here. That would be great. When are you available? And I remember she gave me like a block of time that was like a week. And I was like, a week off paid or a week off unpaid will just that'll ruin that would put us homeless. So I'm like, I can't do that. I can do like a couple days. And she was like, perfect. So I didn't do the costume thing. I just had a bunch of friends that were going, and I was like, I don't ever ask for anything, but this is one of those times where this is a once in a lifetime ability. I got the permission from the wife. So I was like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. And luckily it worked out. But by that point I had lost, I want to say it was like 98 pounds or so. So, I mean, and like I said, Kev had been tracking the whole time. So it wasn't, I didn't feel too uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable asking, but I didn't feel too uncomfortable. Let's say that.
Well, I know it was still it was at a great time, and the thing that we never anticipated was the amazing serendipity of the day that we got to go, because we got to stick around and actually see, which is one of the San Diego Comic-Con limited edition originals of a Funko Pop now as well. The day we went, we got to see what actually turned out to be the Production Around Town Signs namesake, which was Iron Bob. And that came walking out, and that was just insane. But I just kind of want to roll it back for a second. An amazing accomplishment, losing 98 pounds. So congratulations to you, sir. The only bad news is accomplishing that and then going to New Orleans, I think.
Yeah. That first night we all went to dinner and they brought out that dessert platter. And I remember you and we were both like, oh no. But I actually, I think my problem was drinking more than it was eating in New Orleans, but
fair enough. There's a lot of that going around.
Every once in a while, I'd been at it really hardcore for over a year at that point. And I think by the time we hit New Orleans, I think I was at 404. And I think when we landed, right before we took off, I weighed myself and I was 298. So I was down, 106 pounds?
I think you mean 398, but yeah. Or no, 298. Yeah, that's it. If you're 3 on one side and 2 on the other. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So I let myself a little loose, but it's funny, after that long of eating a certain way, you just don't care so much, I mean, I would have put New Orleans out of business if I went down there when I was 400 pounds.
Amen,
I would have ate everything in sight. It was all so delicious. But
bring me all the beignets, all the po' boys. I am ready.
Absolutely.
Bring me your beans and rice. Bring me it all. I would, and I did. I think the compromise I made with myself is I just agreed, because our location was so not optimal, but because it was so close to production in a way, at least where I stayed, I was just determined I will walk everywhere. That will be my compromise. If I have to get anywhere, I'm going to do it walking. So that way I'm at least moving and burning some calories and doing something, which honestly I think is the only reason why I fit into the XL t-shirt. But anyway, I got to tell you the funny thing, and I'm sure you've heard about it before, but I just thought it was very funny. I wish I could look at, I'm not going to scroll all the way back, but I got 2 messages at the same time when we got to set, because I let everyone know I'm here, mainly because and quite selfishly, I'll admit this, I did not want to sit in the extras room all day.
Right.
But, I just still had no guarantees, but I threw it out, or I'm here, and I heard it from 2 different people, which is Jordan and Kevin. I heard great. And then each one immediately asked the second question, is Brian Stoner with you?
Yeah, that's the most insane part to me is like later on in the day, you came looking for me and you're like showing me your phone. You're like, Jordan needs to see you. And I'm like, oh, is this real? Is this real life? And then we go in and it's so insane to me. For someone that's been a fan as long as I have, the whole thing is just crazy. I mean, it really is.
Well, I think the coolest thing that kind of Kevin has always maintained a connection to his audience, so really none of us should experience too much of a surprise. And I think if you are diligent enough, you can always kind of have your moment with Kevin Smith. I think it's always possible. If he's at a location near you, I guess I should throw that caveat in. But it's a reality that you can very easily make happen because he makes himself very available to his fans. It's all on Front Street, as he would say.
Right.
So we shouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, it is extremely cool when it happens, and seeing the recognition that happens because if you have not seen Jay and Silent Bob reboot, but you're somehow listening to this, don't get it. But if you do watch that, there's an incredible thing in there. Kevin insisted that all of the extras who were in the background for the multiple days of shooting, they were all included in the credits of the movie. So you and I have an official credit in Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yep.
As do many of the people that we know. And it's an extremely cool thing. So let me ask you then, what in a journey of 100 pounds, what are the biggest challenges and what advice can you give to people on how to start that journey and keep it going?
Yeah. I think the hardest things for me personally were, number one, soda. As a kid, we didn't get soda. It wasn't something that was, that was like a very, very special treat. So as soon as I got old enough, I could get my own pop. I was drinking pop nonstop. And that's a lot of where that weight came from because I wasn't fat in high school. So that was a hard one. That was really, really tough. And the whole reason I got over that was the first day I did Weight Watchers, I said, I'm just going to eat like I normally do, track my points, and that way I could see where I'm at. So got up in the morning, had a Coke, got in the car, went to McDonald's, 2 sausage McMuffins with egg, large Coke, hash brown, got to work. By then I'd ate all that, drank the 2 Cokes, and I got in my app and put in my points, and I used all my points for like a day and a half. From that.
Wow. I actually, as somebody that has used the system, I'm surprised that's all it was. So that's good.
Well, I'm a big guy, so I get lots of points, but the Coke alone was like 18 points. It was insane. So that was the big hurdle as far as like change of lifestyle. That was definitely it. I hated drinking water. And I had to train myself how to do that because I don't drink coffee. I don't drink tea. For a fat guy, I'm extremely picky on what I eat and drink, which is weird. I have to eat mass quantities of very few items to get to be the size I was, but I figured it out and I made it happen.
Hey, let me tell you, Brian, if I may, you don't really think about it when it's happening. And also, kudos to you for having the balls to be completely honest. Because I'll tell you, anytime I started any type of program, whatever happened before that got me there, I completely and totally lied to myself and burned that bridge pretending it never happened. I'm just adopting this new way, and this is where I'm going. Instead, you confronted the reality to understand what its real impact was, which is great. Second of all, if I can just say, if you get a sausage biscuit, add cheese, oh my God, that's how I got there. Because that is a guilty pleasure that you can do very easily at McDonald's. And it's because, at the same time, look, folks, if you're ever ordering something and you're concerned the person on the other side might be judging your choice, make better choices. That's I mean, if you want to be happy in your heart instead of screaming in your heart, just come up with choices that don't make you feel like, oh God, I hope nobody's, saying, why is this guy adding cheese to a sausage biscuit? Because it's nummy. Don't judge. Just, but I gave you kudos, man, because that is something I don't think I've ever done. I've never sat down and actually wrote down what I ate that got me where I was. So that's a kind of reality facing that I don't think I've ever had the balls to do. But I would also say that I guess the key takeaway there is to actually look at what you're doing and then find something that also works for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all about, I looked at it like almost like balancing my checkbook. It's like, okay, I got X amount of points. I can, be very frugal and eat what I'm supposed to, and then have like one splurge, or I can just eat as much as, the points will allow every single day and use my weeklies, a little bit every day, and just try to fight this change as hard as I can, try to keep some, bit of normalcy. And my whole thing, the deal breaker would be pizza. Like I was like, if I can't eat pizza, this will not work. And so I stuck to my guns, and one day a week I had pizza for dinner. And the funny thing is, sticking to my guns the other days, my stomach shrank. So when I used to eat a whole large pizza, shortly I was like 2 pieces and I'm done, so it works itself out, but it's all about balancing. I mean, that, and then the other thing that had to change was I had to teach myself that food is not a reward. Like, as someone with limited funds, I wasn't going out and buying, new cars or like this, or going on vacations or things like that. Like if I had a horrible day, like a sack of cheeseburgers on the hour drive home, that's that's my award ceremony. So having to break that down as well was tough. But once you do it, it works out. And then once you start seeing results, it makes it easier to make those changes and sacrifices.
Yeah, definitely. And then you also make certain discoveries like, oh, wow, there really are inexpensive ways to eat healthy and eat a lot, or healthier,
Right.
and eat a lot of food. I mean, I think like one of the hacks that my sister-in-law introduced me to, I can't even remember what it was at the time, but it was like some type of protein and then a can of green beans. And those two things combined were 0 points. So I've now eaten food, but I'm not accumulating the Weight Watchers daily point deficiency or withdrawal, if you will. So, and it's the same thing I've kind of been doing now. Although I do admit that early on, I think, I don't want to say before it seems to have become a fad, but part of the thing that helped me, and the most important part of it, was in redefining my relationship with food. Because, like food isn't a reward. You brought up a really great point. For me, food is an experience, okay? It's not a meal. It's not sustenance. It's an experience, right? I even say that. I tell my language about food is very specific. I tell my children, give me a moment. I'm just trying to enjoy my dessert, or I'm trying to enjoy my drink. I don't say I'm trying to drink it. I'm trying to enjoy it. So,
absolutely.
Still very much an experience for me. But I had to redefine what that experience and what that relationship was. And I think it was about a year ago. No. It was at the start of last year, 2019. Well, more to the tail end of 2018. I started intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. As a way to just as a way just to try and reset myself, like, do I really have to eat right now, or am I thirsty? Will drinking something get me through? And, like with you and sodas, I don't The biggest thing they say is to drink water. I can't stand plain water. It tastes like water.
Right.
That makes sense. Or it's got no rewarding. Like I said, it's about the experience. But I did find a company called True Lemon that made something that I think is a 5-calorie raspberry lemonade flavor for 0 points. And then I add an additional packet of the True Lemon wedge. So it's dehydrated lemon juice that I then put in for that little extra lemony kick. But I dilute it across 32 ounces of water, and I can drink this till the cows come home, and it's almost like a dessert. So,
Yep.
Finding new ways to have things you like. And you also need to find out what really does work for you. I think, realistically speaking, you just need to look at the nutrition that you're taking in and do something there. Honestly speaking, I never really admitted to it because, again, it almost seemed like a stigma to me in public. But, I have been kind of following the ketogenic diet for a while now, and I've gotten to the point where I've stabilized, so now I need to reevaluate what else can change so I can get out of the rut that I'm in. How many ruts have you hit on your journey so far?
Oh, there's been quite a few. I mean, and one thing about my journey that sometimes I wish I hadn't done, but I posted my weekly weigh-ins almost religiously every week on Twitter. Which was great for the support and stuff, but man, it really held me accountable. And it was tough on those weeks where either I gained or 3 weeks in a row haven't lost any weight. Those ruts were really tough to, hey everyone, look at me, I'm doing okay. It's like
Yeah.
It was nothing to celebrate.
Well, and I think that's the only bummer about Weight Watchers is that it's something that's very weight based, right? And I think the other thing, and first of all, again, that level of accountability is exactly why you succeeded, because you knew for every action there would be an equal or opposite reaction. So, kudos to acknowledging that, like, well, I'm going to put this out there so that way, if I've had a really crappy day, I'm not going to stop at McDonald's and ask for for 4 cheeseburgers, ketchup only, that kind of thing. But the problem with Weight Watchers, and I'm not disparaging it in any way, I think it's a great program and it definitely works for people. You just have to understand it really is a lifestyle. It's not a program to follow or anything else. If it works for you, you should follow that lifestyle and stick with it. Because really, when it comes to it, none of us should be dieting. We should be adjusting our diet, what we take in. At least all of this, my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Fuck off with it if you don't. I don't care. Well, I do care, but I'm just hoping I'm imparting wisdom in somebody. I shouldn't be nonchalant and disvalue anyone. Whatever. Goddamn political correctness can suck my ass. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that something that's purely weight-based, knowing what I know now about the way my body reacts to things, I think there have to be times where you're not limiting your success in any way while still acknowledging that you feel good and that everything is okay, that even though the scale is telling one story, that's not the full definition of what I believe is taking healthy steps on my journey. Prime example, if I go out right now and I jog for the next 2 days, I'm going to have a weight gain because I will have ripped my muscles. My body will retain water to address healing that torn muscle tissue.
Right.
If I take Advil, I am going to retain more water. My weight will go up. If I have a high sodium something, my weight will go up. I have now gotten to the point where I understand how things react in my system. Like, I know, well, you know what? I'm going to have this, and I know after eating it for 2 days, I'm going to see a spike in my weight, and then it's going to drastically drop down. I know exactly what I take in and the impact it will have on me. And I'm not following a program, or I'm not doing anything wrong in when that happens. Other things that can impact it as well are like sleep. So if you're getting shitty sleep,
Yep.
You're not going to have perfect weight loss, or you're not going to see what you're going to want to see on the scale. And that's the only reason why I think something that is purely weight-based isn't right. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I think measurements really are the one tell all, like if you measure across several different points on your body. But anyway, now I guess my other question is how, because one of the things I have a concern with, and I'm going to get a little personal here, only because it's what you look like with your clothes off. That's all. That's the only way it's getting personal. I'm not like, so how is that when you're in the bedroom now? No, that's not what I'm looking for. But one of my biggest concerns, having been somebody that I'm not afraid to admit that I think at my highest recorded weight, there was a time I got on the scale and I was at 336, which for me, because I carry a lot of weight everywhere, really left for an interesting looking individual. So much so, looking back on, my wife is like, look at this picture, and I'm like, oh my God, it looks like I ate and am wearing a Will suit. Where was I going with this? I was going somewhere with this, I know. Anyway, my biggest concern that I've had is what we have seen, I think, more from shows like The Biggest Loser and the like, but I don't know the implications for my own body, and that is extra skin, if you will. Because if you imagine the human body as a balloon, once you've inflated that balloon, it can never go back to that original shape, especially if you really blow up a balloon nice and big. So I have no evidence. I have no facts in this. My only belief is that can definitely happen if you experience extreme weight loss in a short period. I don't know what happens if you gradually lose weight over a longer period. In your particular case, it sounds like over the course of about a year, you shed 100 pounds. Would you say that's kind of accurate?
Yep.
So, have you seen any of that yet? Because I definitely have points on my body that I think if I were able to get rid of another 50 pounds, let's say, I might have some concerns. And have you experienced that?
Well, the thing that's good and bad that I have going for me in this regard is, yes, I lost 100 pounds, but still technically for my size and everything else, I'm still chubby. So I don't have any like super loose skin or anything like that because I didn't lose. I think I would have had to have lost like 200 pounds. My baby brother, he was like 440 pounds in high school. He was very large. And he lost like 280 pounds after high school. And he has a severe issue with like loose skin. And it is very dramatic and something he deals with daily. But, in a perfect world, if I could get down to 280, which as far as doctors are concerned, I would still be fat, but I would be okay with that for my build. And I don't think I would have to go up against that extreme loose skin. I think I could incorporate a little, like weight training or something and kind of balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I get you. So what you're saying is basically you haven't deflated the balloon to the point where you would know yet. That's the exact same boat I'm in. I don't know what would happen because ideally speaking, it's around 50 pounds I think I would still want to get rid of. But, I still look, and I freely admit this, in just strictly the puffiness category, I look much better than I used to. And,
Right.
I do see, and this is the one that bugs me the most, is I see a lot of the examples here in the neck as that double chin has shrunken down. That's when I'm like,
You get those actual jaw lines, like you actually look like you have a chin. It's
Yeah.
nice.
and it's scary, and I see it right there. But you know what? I'd rather have it than the alternative. It's just thankfully I don't think, even if I were to get to a good conservative size, that it would be a direct impact. But I tell you, sitting here in a mask the whole time, I think the only thing that does happen is because I talk so goddamn much, I don't have the same coping mechanisms I do to get new air in. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I got to take some. That's why you constantly hear a long, big pause. But other than that, I think I'm doing well. So let me get on to my next question now, because we are a tech podcast. So I got to ask you, Brian, do you have a Nintendo Switch?
I do.
Is it amazing as I think it is? Because I, of course, cannot get one.
So this is that forbidden fruit a little bit going on. I mean, I do love it, and it is great if you're a Nintendo fanboy, like the Nintendo titles. They have a new Paper Mario coming out that I'm just dying to play. But I play my PC 90% of the time and jump on the Switch occasionally. The wife usually has the Switch, but it is great, and you
Cool.
should get one.
Yeah,
But
my
be
family
prepared to
caught me
lose it.
looking, and they're like, another gaming system to just sit there. Where's your PS4, Spider-Man boy? And really, it's sitting right over there on a pile, not hooked up to anything. But I did. Everything in my life is dependent on projects. My daughter, as a matter of fact, had a great exchange with my wife. She sent my wife this TikTok, which is just of some kid shooting her dad. The dad is looking out. He's looking out his back sliding glass door. He's holding a cup of coffee, and near the very end, he just takes a sip, and then the cup starts to go away. And the caption was perfect. It was just like every dad figuring out how to make his backyard his bitch. Is what that moment was, which I could very relate to. But my daughter also then chimed in with extras like, this is totally dad every weekend. Like afterwards, I get to hear about all the projects and crafts he wants to do, and I just go, uh-huh. Thankfully, she saved it with, but I would never, I wouldn't want anything different. So that was good to hear as a tag on.
Yeah,
Near the
that's
very
the way
end.
you want that to end.
But when they did catch me looking at to see how unobtainable a Nintendo Switch is, they're like, another gaming system, of course. Which I said, yeah, even though I'm sure. The other thing you can pretty much lay good money on is that if I'm looking at or I'm finally buying a gaming system, it means the next one's about to come out.
Right.
Because, I'm, as I said, only 7 months younger than Kevin Smith, which puts me at 49. So I got no business buying gaming systems anyway, unless it's supposedly for the kids, but it never is. It's always about me. But they are very unobtainable, and part of it is because of direct impact from the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak. But that is supposedly changing now. My whole thing is I'm just not willing to try to get to Target early to be able to try and find one if they just happen to get them that day. But yeah, there is a shortage, and I'm envious of everyone that has them. But now explain to me, though, the docking situation. How does that work?
So it's being an IT person, you're going to love this. It's just like the simplest thing ever because it's just like a USB-C cord plugged into a piece of plastic pretty much. And that's kind of all it is. It's very minimalistic. You just plug it in. It's only got the one port, and that's all.
What does that do? Does it convert down to HDMI?
Yeah.
There we go. So I got to give him credit. This is kind of a genius move if it's able to, unless you add it into the dock and it gets some type of extra processing power too. For a gaming system concept, it's kind of genius where you have your controllers on either side of your screen, and then you can detach the controllers from that and mount them into a dock, and now you're able to play on your TV. Amazing concept, aside from the potential processing power, et cetera, et cetera. But if you were able to kind of have a system that, like, let's imagine a PS5 where, you have a limiter function and then for the TV bigger function, I guess. I don't know how others would adapt it. But then again, Nintendo really doesn't seem to give two shits about what other people are doing. They just always seem to go their own way.
Well, the funny thing about Nintendo is, and for so many years, I've been thinking to myself, like, this is going to be it. Because I've been a Nintendo fanboy forever. Like, I was not with Sega. I didn't step away from Nintendo until Xbox came out. But I've owned every console. I've always gamed. My dad gamed, so it was just what we did. But I've gotten to the point where there's no point in buying a PS5. There's no point in buying the new Xbox. Like, my PC is way more powerful than both. Pretty much all the games I really want to play, I can get on PC. But then there's Nintendo, where they're going, yeah, but you can't do this. Like, that's the reason why I have a Switch. I've gotten rid of all of my other consoles because I just do everything on my PC. But Nintendo is just brilliant like their games for the most part are trash. The only ones that are good are the Nintendo titles. and and they're amazing. Like they're just flawless. They'll come out with a Zelda game once every 12 years or something, and it's ridiculous. It's the best game you've ever played every single time. And they've got this way to make this business model work where it's like, no, everything, we're not the most powerful. We're not trying to be. We don't have the best display. Our controls are goofy. But guess what? You want to play Mario? All right, give us $500. Like it's insane to me, but it's also very beautiful.
It's a very basic actual business concept, which is just creating the demand so that you can supply something. And they recognize, to use current terms, they recognize what their brand is and they're playing to it, which is exactly what you should do. I mean, look, it's the same thing, a topic that keeps coming up. Same thing Kevin Smith does. He knows his brand, he knows his audience, and he tries to deliver to that so that way there is an equitable relationship between the two. And that's exactly what they've done. I can't. The only thing I will say is that I have not screwed with a Zelda game in a long time, mainly because I think it was on the original Nintendo system. I was playing one of the Zelda games, and I had it saved, and it was finally not even saved. I had it, and I was at the shadow battle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
My dog comes running in the room, bumps the Nintendo, all for naught. All progress gone, done.
Yep.
And that's a pain I couldn't come back from, Brian.
I've seen it happen. My dad in the 90s, he was a machinist for Boeing, and they loved to go on strike. So he would play Zelda, and my mom would hand draw maps. I don't know why this happened. I'm pretty sure we could have bought a strat guide for $8, but for some reason, my mom had to hand draw the maps. But they did this for hours.
It was hey man, maybe it was their thing, and she's like, "This is a way I get to be a part of this."
I guess, but I remember it was the weirdest thing. But my dad had to play in his recliner, and in order to make that work, he would pull the console as far as the cords would go, so it would be sitting in the middle of the living room, and I ran through and kicked that power cord out of the back, and he lost. God only knows. That is the maddest I have ever seen that man in my life. So, that pain is very real, and it lingers for a very long time.
And you get one bad save at the wrong time. Oh man, I will tell you, I may completely agree with you, and you're the second bearded glasses wearing guy to tell me. I've almost switched exclusively to my PC, and now that I've got a PS4 controller that is Bluetoothed to my system, I'm inclined to agree, because I can either go with the ASWD on my keyboard, or I can go now with the controller if I want that kind of feel. Best of all, I can take my screen, and I could put it up on a big screen if I wanted that TV effect, or I've just got a very intimate setup here. So I totally get it, and I will heavily evaluate titles and buying decisions based on that now, because for example, if I could get Marvel's Spider-Man on anything but a PS4, I would do that. If there's the opportunity to get the Miles Morales Spider-Man game via PC instead of a gaming system, I would do that.
Yep.
I think more than I know that there are specific titles they only release on these things to help support sales. And I typically, if I see a branded version of the gaming system, I pretty much figure, oh, that's probably exclusive. They're gonna get my money anyway. But I would definitely agree with you. But then again, look at the titles that I play. I think I got an Xbox 360 because I wanted to play the Arkham games. I got the PS4 only because I wanted to play the Spider-Man game, which Marvel's Spider-Man is an amazing title, and I've still got things I could be doing on it. But as I said, not hooked up to anything.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I really want to screw with any gaming systems now. What I do find hilarious, however, is that it's easier to connect a PS4 controller to a PC than it is an Xbox 360 controller to a PC powered by Windows 10.
Now, Will, no. I've got mine right here. This is what I have Windows 10. I've got Xbox One controller.
Mm-hmm.
play. The second it plugs in, it instantly works.
Oh yeah, but no, I'm sorry. You just said one hyphenated term there. Once it plugs in.
Oh, so, okay. I see what you're saying. I do have Bluetooth, but I run my headset through my controller, and sound over Bluetooth obviously is problematic. So, or non-existent. So
I get it. I'm just saying that it's, wirelessly I was able to connect this up much faster.
oh yeah.
And I'm sure if I had looked at, I don't even know. I think there's an Xbox controller around here somewhere. It looks like C3PO because my Xbox 360 is the limited edition Star Wars R2D2 version.
I would expect nothing less.
Dude, I won that too. I didn't pay for it. So that's dope. The only bad thing was I wanted it the same Christmas my family got me an Xbox 360 for Christmas, and I returned their gift because it wasn't the R2D2 one, and I, to this day, think I probably shouldn't have even brought that up now. That's what I think. Oops. Oh, well. So what is just for my own edification to kind of wrap things up then. So the other hot buzz all over the Twitterverse, for example, is Animal Crossing on the Nintendo Switch. So much so that it even turns out like Danny Trejo is a big player of this video game. But what is an Animal Crossing? Can you tell me, Brian?
Yeah, so I'm an OG Animal Crossing player. I've been playing since GameCube when it originally came out. And it's the cure for the world we live in, Will. It's happy, very relaxing. There's no violence, there's no crime, there's no disease. It's the most, I don't want to say dumbed down because that sounds really bad. It's like a sim.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simplified sim. So you walk around, you're the only human on the island. You got all your buddies. They're all various animal types. They do the Charlie Brown talk where they don't actually, you can read, but they don't sound like humans.
Mm-hmm.
And then you waste your time away collecting random furniture or fishing or digging up fossils. But it is ridiculously addictive. And you can waste hours. And it's just like it takes your mind and just pushes everything out. It's weird. Someday there'll be a study because I've been playing this game for, I don't know. See, Jen and I have been married almost 20 for 15 years or something. And this is the third console I've had it on, and it's the exact same thing. They make little differences, but like in the first one, you could get Nintendo cartridges, and then you'd put them in your house in Animal Crossing, and it would allow you to play like Punch Out in Animal Crossing, but the original NES version, which was huge back then. Like that was crazy. But it's like video game therapy. It's just an eraser for everything bad in the world, and there's a reason why everyone and their brother is playing it.
So so then so this is nothing new. It's been around since GameCube. That's the first thing I'm hearing. And I'm like, wow, because I've never heard of it. So why is it such big news that it's out on the Nintendo Switch now?
Because we haven't gotten one since the Wii. So like when the Switch U came out, or the Wii U, I guess it was called, there was no Animal Crossing for it. They put out a couple for the Game Boy, but they were meh. And they put out a mobile version, also very meh. This has been the first full real life Animal Crossing since the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
So people have been waiting because like when it hit on GameCube, at the time I was working as assistant manager at a video game store, and no one knew like what to do with this thing. Like, why is anyone going to buy it? And it was like me and all my heavy metal buddies working at the shop. And like 3 weeks later, we're like, hey man, do you have apples on your island? Because I've got peaches and I don't know what to do. Like Sonia wants an apple and I got to get her an apple, man. Can you help me out? And we're all like listening to Metallica. And now we're trying to appease a bunny in a paisley dress because she wants a piece of fruit that doesn't grow on her island. It got real weird real quick. Well, I'm not going to lie to you, but there's something about the game. my grandmother, we lived with her and took care of her until she passed away. And her last couple of years, she had got addicted to Facebook, Farmville.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out she was spending ridiculous amounts of real money on Farmville.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I have to fix this. So I got her Wii, and I got her Animal Crossing, and I said, here you go. You can water the flowers, you can fish, you can catch bugs, you can do this. I kid you not, she would get up in the morning, come out to the living room, and she would call me and be like, can you get the Wii out of my room and bring it out to the living room? Sure. And I would move it, and when she'd go to bed, I need you to move it back. And that was the old controller style where you had to use both hands.
Mm-hmm.
And she had mobility issues, but she would be laying sideways in her bed, just fishing, and it made her so happy. Like all those things that she used to be able to do before, she got in the wheelchair and stuff. She was fishing. She was tending to her garden. She would type letters to these AI characters in the game, like long letters,
Mm-hmm.
wish them happy birthday. It brought her so much joy. The game itself has absolutely no purpose. There's
Well, I
no
mean,
goal.
really, do any games really have so with the current iteration?
Mhm.
Is there any multiplayer functionality? Like, can I come visit your island in any way?
You can, absolutely. Yes, because being the elitist that I am, I have all the fruits on my island. I worked very hard to make sure that happened. It took some time. But so usually when you get your island, you have one fruit. That's it. And it's all random, just depends, because every island's different kind of a thing. I
Mhm.
think there's 4 or 5 different types in all. And the only way you can get other ones is by traveling to friends' islands and, picking an apple off their tree and smuggling it home in your pocket and planting it on your island.
Oh,
But yeah,
so you're a good person to know if I ever do get a system in Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I have money trees on my island where
Oh,
I've planted money, and now 1 bag of money, when the tree blooms, turns into 3 bags of money.
well,
So
that's
that's
just good math as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, and I mean, the game has its own stock market with the turnip prices.
No,
You
man.
buy your turnips, and then you got to check in for prices every day, see what they're selling at, go to different islands,
This
see
is
what the
starting to
highs
this
and
is starting
low.
to sound like a lot of work, Brian. I'm not gonna lie.
It doesn't matter, Will, because the second you get in, Animal Crossing takes over.
Okay,
And
I've
the
learned my lesson from Twitter and from TikTok and everything else. Basically, what you just said is Will must not buy a Switch or play Animal Crossing. Understood completely. Because right now, my biggest challenge is trying to get to and pass Patrick Swayze on Mall Brawl. That's what I'm trying to accomplish in life, okay?
I
And
still
that
need
in
to
itself, bad goal, but doesn't take a lot of time. What you're explaining sounds like a second job.
But it's you don't have to do any of it. Remember, there's no
Oh yeah.
point.
No, I hear you. I understand. But I am a gamer, and suddenly it's like, oh, I need to accomplish something. I need to do this. Oh wait, I don't have this. How do I get this? And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, I'm finding out Animal Crossing quests, and I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at that. Get a strategy guide. Hey, do you have a friend that has peaches? I got apples. What's going on? No, man. No. Thank you. You know what? This has been great because now I know I don't need to worry about getting one of these, and I don't need to worry about Animal Crossing. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for liberating me from that, Brian. Thank you.
I'll see you online in a week.
Bastard. Who knows, man? Because the Nintendo shortage is supposedly coming to an end. So we shall see.
It's a great console. Good luck though, because if you do get one and you do get Animal Crossing, I guarantee your daughters and your wife will be very interested. You may think, oh, she's never played a game in ever, never. Mm-hmm.
We'll
Yep.
see. Okay. Well, now you see. Now you're trying to challenge me again. I'm not gonna fall for it, dude. I'm not gonna. I've had enough influences in my life. I get it. No, I get it. First taste is free, pal. Okay.
Right.
I've heard the story before. I've heard this before. Anyway, man, thank you so much for your time. I can't thank you enough. This was a really pleasant time to talk. You let me have some political venting. We got to have some great conversations about ways that people can potentially improve their life if that's what they're looking to do. And I've learned to stay the hell away from Animal Crossing. So thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it. Because, the other part of it is it's just the have-not in me. I don't have a Switch. Other people do. I can't get a Switch. I want a Switch. That's all it is. I know. I know me, bro. I know me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I totally get it.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. It's always interesting to hear how somebody's journey gets started, especially in how I came to know you. And now, I look forward to any time that we get to have an exchange, because I know it's that communal thing of being people with like minds and personalities that, just kind of, if it's a healthy type of relationship, it's something to look forward to every day, which I do. So thank you very much. And hopefully, if you don't mind coming back again, we can do this again.
Yeah, anytime. You just let me know. I'd be more than happy to swing by.
Right on, man. I appreciate it. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for listening, as always. Remember, go to netheadsonair.com for any of the important links about the show, including our Patreon if you want to become a subscriber to us and support us, because all of the money from our Patreon goes right back into the show, including upgrades. For example, if Brian here were to become a regular co-host, an alternative co-host, if you will, in much in the same way that Trench is the regular host, that's the Patreon money is what we use to then get any equipment upgrades that we need, so that way everyone's got the same standard kind of thing. And we really appreciate it, so thank you very much. As a matter of fact, there are unique rewards, and considering I'm clearing away a lot of Loot Crate stuff in here, it's a great time to become one of our Patreon supporters. Much like Miranda Janelle, who just need her updated address, and the package that was returned would go back out. Just saying. Anyway, folks, thank you very much. Until next time. Sorry, I'm just pulling this up. Until next time, my name is Will.
Brian.
There you go. And we'll be back soon.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker.
Signing off. I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it.
NetHeads.
NetHeads.
We'll be back soon.
Goodbye. At smodcast.com.
This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.